And he's going to come on? All right. Okay, hello, good morning. We lost our intro, whatever. Um, Good morning. Apologies for yesterday's snafu. A little apology for today's snafu, and we hope to stop the snafus relatively soon. Um, Jared Day is going to be joining us in just a few. Keep your fingers crossed. Anyway, welcome to the program. Feel a little bit at sea. The other reason being that I left my phone at home. You know how you just feel like unmoored now? God, what's happened? I mean, we've literally been changed in very real ways by this damn technology. Love-hate relationship. Anyway, obviously big news to talk about, and what else is new. And I hope to get a historical perspective from Jared in a moment. I just want to say that to add insult to injury, yesterday with the news that in fact Trump is quitting the Paris climate agreement. That's bad enough. The whole world reacting in astonishment, horror, derision. But that he had to pull us, Pittsburgh, into it is like, I want to just smash his ugly face in. You cannot look at any coverage of this momentous presidential action. It will be well remembered in history without immediately seeing the word Pittsburgh everywhere. That's the takeaway line from that appalling speech full of lies. Look at Wall Street Journal, above the fold. There it is. There it is. I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris. Dear God. Thanks, Donald. Thanks a lot. Might seem small, but it still pisses me off. Jared Day is, I think, finally aboard, I hope. Hi, Jared.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, good to hear your voice.
Always glad to hear yours as well.
Okay, so have we seen you, we haven't seen you since the inauguration, have we?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I think the last time you and I spoke was early last year when I was visiting. I was in town for a day.
Do you mean we haven't spoken since the horror of the election result and all that? Oh, God.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Man, it's something else.
Okay, so then first questions first. Are you okay?
Oh, yes. I'm fine. I mean, as you know, I mean, one of the things that had me move from Pittsburgh to Connecticut was that I needed to take care of my parents for all kinds of different reasons. And since that time, it was all expected. My father passed away, and I'm just now in the process of helping my mom get into a nursing home.
Oh, dear. And I'm so sorry.
It's all fine. She chose the one she wanted, and it's literally 1 minute from my house. And she's actually fine. She's happy. And she has a lot of health issues that they help her. Takes a lot of stress out of her life that she doesn't really need to
think about all
that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
oh,
because
man.
I was increasingly not at home. So it was a source of anxiety for her.
It's tough.
I'm going through a transition right now, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how I'm doing.
You're a good son, I'll tell you that. Are you an only child?
No, I have a brother and a lot of sort of extended family nearby.
Okay. So
that was one of the other reasons why we have my mom where she is that it's like we're all within like 40 minutes or so of her, so she gets a lot of people coming to see her.
That's wonderful. Well, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, for those of you who don't recall, Jared was a regular contributor to this program when he was at Carnegie Mellon as a professor of history. Well, we're sure making history these days, aren't we?
Indeed we are.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't even, I have to tell you, I mean, I have been despairing, to say the least. I feel shame that this is a man representing us. I feel fear. I feel extraordinary, really, levels of anxiety. And I know I am not alone. And I just...
Correct.
I wonder, let's just, to pull away for just a minute from the horrors du jour. Jared, I can't stop. I start the show every day, not meaning to say, but saying, I don't know where to start. Because every day we're deluged with yet another series of unthinkable, unprecedented events. So, I just want to say, I can't believe the arc of history here. The arc of history. Was it Dr. King who famously said something about it always moves forward or something? Did he say something?
It turns towards justice.
Well, it doesn't.
The arc of history is long, but it turns toward justice.
Yeah, well, the arc of history is long, and it is now for the people of the United States and the world turning anywhere.
Taking a bit of an S-curve, isn't it?
Dear God. So here's the question I wanted to ask, and then we'll come back. I want to know if you think that this vile human being, now our president, will possibly finish out his 4-year term.
I'd say 50-50 chance of him finishing out. And, what actually prompted, if you'd asked me like a month ago or even 6 weeks ago, I would have said, he'll be impeached, no problem. However, I've been doing some historical research, and I forget, it might have been one of the talking heads on MSNBC brought it up, that looking back at the Watergate years,
right,
and noted how it was that even at the darkest time for Nixon during the before he resigned, that in none of the House or Senate committees, and not when they actually passed out the articles of impeachment out of the House, did a majority of Republicans ever vote for it. There was always the Democrats and a minority of Republicans were the ones who would pass out out of committees and out of the House and in the Senate.
And what did it?
That was at a time.
What did it take?
That was at a time. Excuse me?
You go ahead. That was at a time when we already knew what?
Well, that was at a time when partisanship wasn't nearly as jagged as it is right now.
Okay.
And so, I look out and I look at the Congress right now, and I still, when I say 50-50, that 50 is based exclusively on the view that the only way that he'll be impeached is if the Democrats take the House next year.
That's what I was going to say. So this rests on 2018.
Absolutely.
Or something as damning as what finally pushed the Republicans in Watergate to say this guy's got to go.
They never. The majority of that party never acted against Nixon. They stayed loyal to him. That was my point earlier.
Really? Even
it was always, yes. The Democrats were in the majority in both the House and the Senate, and they had a majority on all the committees. But in order to pass out articles of impeachment, you either needed 2/3 or supermajorities of some type, and they only did that. If you had like 17 Republicans on the committee, you'd get 6 of them, or you'd get 5. And it was always a majority of the Republicans wouldn't sign on. And that was back in 73 and 74. And, I look out on the landscape now, and I just don't see a Republican Party that has the will to even get anywhere near that.
Oh, man.
Now,
I so didn't want to hear what you're saying. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
But, do you see, you look at Nunez and his management of the House investigation.
I know.
He
yes.
wants to focus in on Obama.
I know. It's not even, it's beyond, it's beyond farce. I don't even really.
Yes.
So what's with these Republicans? My God, in terms of ignominy that will historically rain down upon a party, is this about as bad as it gets?
No, actually. The United States has had degrees of partisanship like this. And they were, the precedents are bad ones in all respects. There was right before the Civil War, and it was right after the Civil War. That it was easily, if not more so, this kind of condition. A kind of hyper visceral. Now, the term that you often hear bandied around now is called tribal. Have you heard that term?
Yes. Yes.
And
so that's what it's become.
The idea, it's become profoundly tribal, where it's like the majority of Republicans, the great majority, will simply look to the organs of their party to figure out what they think about an issue. And so it's like, they turn on a dime on the issue of America and Russia. Mitt Romney said back in 2012 that Russia was the biggest threat to America, and Republicans had for decades had this kind of animus towards Russia. Well, here we are, 4 years later, 5 years later, and it's like the whole party turns on a dime.
Well, the whole party, are willing to act as stooges. But, Putin in this news conference or whatever, wherever he said these things yesterday, he can barely contain his delight. There's a smirk on his face. And for Donald Trump, our God, to actually say in that horrific speech yesterday that we can't have, I want to find we can't have people laughing at us or whatever it is he said. What? That's what he said in terms of pulling out of Paris, that we can't have their laughing. Is my God, where's his head? There we are being laughed at all over the world. We are nothing but a laughing stock. Mocked. We are mocked under him.
Yep.
And this is what Republicans want?
There's a silver lining to all of this, in my view. there is a silver lining to all of this.
Yeah, well, I'll ask you later what drugs you're on.
Oh, okay.
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 Okay, what's the silver lining?
Well, one of the things that I certainly got clear, and I think if Democrats in general got clear about in 2016, is the extent to which there is about a 30 to 35% of the electorate out there that will vote for whatever Republican is put in front of them.
Right. Even if it's a serial killer, it's...
Yep, that's exactly right.
That's right.
It could be Vladimir Putin next time. Who knows?
That's right. That's true.
That is what's going to... And now, of course, the question becomes, how, in a democracy, do we get past? How do we get through this time period where you have that kind of people, that group there, that are so immovable, seemingly? And I think what we're going to do, and it's going to be ugly, is we're going to have a couple of years where there's nothing but this kind of governance. I mean, under Trump, my anticipation is that it's going to continue to go the way it has gone, which is to say that there's not going to be any good news coming out of this administration. It's all going to be some version of incompetence, screw the little guy, American embarrassment abroad. Pick your rancid flavor of the week, and that kind of sustained barrage. It's going to be a test. Is that what it's going to take to turn the corner on what we've seen since the Reagan era? Is it going to take 2 years, or even, God forbid, 4 years,
or God forbid, 8 years,
to really move into whatever's going to come after these people?
But
so,
Jared,
I'm sure
that's not a
silver lining.
That's not a silver lining, much.
Okay.
And I have to tell you the damage, Jared. The damage. Already, they've had about 4 months in office. The damage already, in some respects, seems to me to be unfixable. The lowering of every standard and norm that had generally been accepted, certainly in my lifetime, of how presidents act, how this and that, how discourse. I mean, I just don't see us being able to come back. This is a country that rejected a dignified, beyond dignified president and installed this buffoon.
Yep. Well,
what does that say about us?
I remain somewhat more optimistic than that. America has seen worse.
How do we get out of this? We had a civil war. How do we get out of this?
Now, I think that, first of all, getting back to the very first thing that you said, one of the things that we can't do is give in to despair. And that it's one of those things where, Americans, in my opinion, are not despairing types of people. And this is one of those moments where we need to kind of rise to the occasion. And this, for each generation of Americans, and maybe talked about this a little bit in the past sometimes, that we need, that every generation gets its challenge. And for your generation, it was Vietnam and Watergate.
Yeah.
A set of crises that challenge fundamentally the kind of country that we are. And for this generation, this is that challenge. This is that time where, and I look out at young people nowadays, and I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I agree. Young people make me feel better. They do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's even people like young evangelicals, young conservatives. It's like they are just not cut from that same And this is an old saw of mine, that old baby boomer cloth. It's like that there is a much more interest in building bridges than hiding behind ideological walls. There's much more interest in global warming across the political spectrum for people under 40.
Yes.
And you look at the people who are clinging so desperately to the pant legs of Donald Trump and his types. These people are my age or older, which is like 50s, 60s, 70s, and so on. And those people are going to pass from the scene.
Not soon enough.
We'll be sad to see you go, Lynn. But it's like this is one of those dynamics.
Yeah, but you're ignoring that 30-35%. They're still there.
Those people are skewed old. They skew the kind of people who and I'm over not generalizing.
You're stereotyping and you're simplifying because think of all these white racist types who've been killing people left and right. They aren't old. They're in their 20s. They're in their 30s. Right?
Sure. But then you look at and go to those rallies in Washington. You went to one of the rally, didn't you?
I went to one here. I did it here. Yeah.
You didn't go to the one in Washington?
Nope. The one in Pittsburgh the one in Pittsburgh was amazing, and I didn't. I you know why?
Yeah.
Because I had the same reaction you did. Boy, did I do my marching in Washington. I've marched in Washington more times than I can remember. And right. I was thinking, time for some younger folks to do this.
Exactly. But if you go to those marches, whether they're in Pittsburgh or it's like, who is it that's showing up? I will take 100 or even match up, never mind, 1,000 or many thousands of young people like that against one of that knifing guy in Portland. And it actually works out that way. When Trump, there's occasionally these rallies for Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been kind of following that.
Well, there was one, right? The one he did in Harrisburg.
Exactly. And it's like, what shows up is a couple of hundred people with lawn chairs.
No, it's not quite that bad. But you know what? He didn't fill. There were empty seats.
I saw in the pictures I saw at least of a number of these rallies. It's people carrying air cannons, oxygen tanks. It's just like, that's who they are for the most part. And so it's like, as people committed to a better vision of life, this is a testing time. And we need to keep our eyes on the work that there is to do right now, which is to say we need to prepare to win those congressional elections in 2018. Because I actually have, it's like you hear people talk now that it's almost like it's going to be easy or a slam dunk for the Democrats to do that.
Oh, hell!
And I don't.
No, it won't be.
Believe that at all.
No, and this is why Democrats are doomed. Because Democrats are doomed because our party is every bit in disarray and has lost its way as the Republican Party. I have a feeling that the American...
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think the American people are clearly saying, and those young people that you keep referring to, if you were to ask them, they would say, the Republicans and the Democrats, you've had your day, get the hell out of here. I don't think our organization, our the way we've politically organized with those two parties is going to work anymore. The Republicans have absolutely not only lost their way, they've lost their souls. The Democrats are just a bunch of old intellectual policy wonk types who have lost total understanding of where a lot of Americans are living their lives. I obviously.
Well, I would agree. With the exception of the word total, I would agree with you.
All right.
And the thing about it is that one of the things that you do see when you go out, and this has been actually started during the Obama years, is that there are a lot of politicians, people who got into politics under Obama and now, that I think hold out a tremendous prospect for the future. And we need to nurture those people and kind of move them through with some velocity, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, don't underestimate the extent to which that a party doesn't need an agenda or doesn't need to have even good ideas to win in this climate.
Well, they need good candidates then.
Well, they do, yes, but and I think that the Democrats going into next year will have more than they usually do. But it's a kind of thing that the Republican Party has shown clearly that in order to take the House, the Senate, and the presidency, all you need to do is run against the other party. And I hear people say that more is needed, and I honestly don't see any evidence of that.
You mean, so wait, Jared, let's back up a little bit. You're saying the Republicans proved that simply by being the party of opposition to anything with a Democrat label on it or an Obama label on it, they can win. They had no ideas, they had no platform, and in fact, now that they're in power, they don't have a damn thing. The Congress is more laughable than it's ever been, can't do a thing, even with a majority. So, but they were, but that was a camp. The way they won then is based on, you talk about tribalism. My God. That's just pure tribalism.
Now, let me just say, it's like there's more than enough principled reasons to get people to oppose Republican rule in 2018. I don't think there's any paucity of good principles and even some good policy proposals, even if all you're running on is simply getting us back into the Paris Climate Accord.
Or getting some certainty of health insurance for every American. Or
exactly.
These guys are just...
This doesn't need to be... This is not rocket science.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but now, in my view, that is the disarray. The Democrats are always going to be in disarray. I think, and yet, as we saw in 2006, with when Rahm Emanuel was running the House, the re-election efforts in the House, that times come and circumstances align where the Democrats are perfectly capable of taking advantage of things.
Did you see that Rahm Emanuel is planning, perhaps, on running for president? And I
hope not.
Yes, thank you very much. When I saw that, I thought, I really am. I'm going to bed.
Right.
I can't. And then
there's way too many Clinton veterans out there who have ideas like that, and I
enough.
I'm so much of the view that those people need to go away.
Go away. You had your time. You had your chance. Go the hell away. I'm sorry if it's not fair. I really want all of them to go away. Okay, how do you react to this? Headline, New York Times, I think yesterday. Biden to form group. A hint he's weighing a bid in 2020. React to that, Joe Biden.
Well, it could be worse.
I mean, if he were
That's
25 years younger, yes, but he'll be 84, I believe.
He'll be 80. Oh yeah, he'll be in his 80s, and it's like, no. Well, all I can say is I wouldn't support him.
Oh no, he's 74.
You know.
Excuse me, he's 74. So yeah, he'll be pushing 80. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Too bad. He should have run
Yep.
last time around.
Yep.
You know, Obama was wrong about that. The Democratic Party was wrong, perhaps, about that. We just were too sure that we were going to make history again. We were too sure of ourselves. Who was out of touch? Geez, were we out of touch or what?
Now I'm going to run slightly against the basic thrust there. It's like, and we will never know how it would have gone if Bernie were nominated.
Well, that's true.
But
I'll tell you what would have happened. He couldn't have won.
No.
A 70 how old? A 70-some old Jew socialist? Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Yep. No, I agree with you completely.
All right.
And it's like there's actually a movement afoot to have him run.
Jesus
in 2020.
Christ. Oh God, help us. What?
Now,
the party of the future. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's made up of human beings, and the Democrats, it's never going to be pretty.
Well, and in fact,
Obama's gone.
Yeah, all those young people that you put so much hope in, they the ones who love the old fart.
Right, but I would say that there'll be other people who come along that, and here again, this is why the Trump administration, this time right now, is so important, is that it takes it away from personalities. It puts issues at the centerpiece of whatever the Democrats are going to do next. It's like, if you can't summon, if you need that perfect candidate to come along and get you excited, well, the next this year and next year, and who knows, maybe the next 3 years, should teach you that it's actually, it works to turn out every time. And it works because there's so much more at stake than your favorite candidate.
Well, right.
I've
been saying that forever. Yeah.
Right, and sometimes you've been right.
The people with their ideologies, it's just making me crazy. What do you think of Al Franken? Margie wants to know.
What about him?
I don't know. Is he a potential?
I mean, I like Al,
but he's not a potential leader.
No.
Why?
I'd have to think about that because I think that his humor and I think I would turn the question around a little bit.
Jared, we're starting. Jared, we're losing you. You're getting.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What I was going to say is that I think I'm going to turn the question around just a little bit and say what I think the Democrats need versus what they may have. And in my view, it's one of the things that Biden, for however old he is, that he at least has a demonstrated track record of attracting white working class voters.
Correct.
And I think whoever runs in 2020, that has to be a prerequisite. One of the things that I see as one of the darkest aspects of what's happening right now is that the Republican Party, it has actually been an amazing, what you've seen is very historic in the sense that the party transitioned from one type of party to another type of party during an election season.
And in the blink of an eye.
In the blink of an eye, they turned from being a conservative party into a white nationalist party.
Right.
And it's like, the fear for me going forward is that it will that Trump and his acolytes and people who think he's so wonderful, that they will continue to hammer on that nasty cavity of race as a way of further making the Republican Party an even more white nationalist party. And so it's like, for Democrats, I think it would be a real mistake to nominate somebody who would really kind of play into the stereotypes of the white working class. And I think Al Franken, to get back to the original question, I have a fear that Al Franken would not be the answer.
Okay, so obviously what you're saying is the Democrats should turn to a cis white male.
No, actually.
What?
I mean, my preferred candidate at this point is Elizabeth Warren. I think you need to have somebody who can speak with authenticity and passion, and speak in concrete terms about.
But she's a pointy-headed. She's a pointy-headed Boston intellectual.
Have you heard her? You've heard her speak.
I don't think she's a great speaker. I think she's okay extemporaneously. I think when she gives a speech, as she did at the convention, she's very flat.
Well, I would say that I'm not. I'm just throwing her out as somebody who I suspect could do that. But that this is something that as we look forward, that is something that I think will need to be in the mix. Is somebody who can speak with that kind of credibility. Now, we'll have to see. And I also hold out the real possibility that whoever is going to run for the Democrats in 2020 may not even be on anybody's list right now.
Right, I agree that that's possible. So who would that be? I was just saying Tom Hanks. I mean, you see people thinking again how Trump has changed the game. He's changed the game. Americans fall readily for a demagogic personality, somebody who they feel they know. I mean, so it could be, take your pick, look around the TV and see who might emerge from Hollywood or your television screen.
Yeah.
That right there is so damaging to our politics, and shows the American people to be unserious. I don't know. I will get you depressed. I will get you depressed before this conversation is over.
I know that there's very serious efforts afoot to court figures like Tom Hanks and Oprah Winfrey, and other people like that.
The Rock.
And what's that?
The Rock. Do you even know who he is? Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
We'll see. But people like that, and it's the kind of thing that I would certainly be opening to hearing what they had to say. And who knows? I think that the problem that we have, the Democrats have, is that there's a certain political culture that's at the high end of the Democratic Party, which is to say in the leadership of the Democratic Party, that somehow it has to be somebody from their own little leadership group that needs to be the next one.
They never learn then.
And I think that no. But we were just talking about who's it going to be? The Republicans not only have been fairly successful in getting people who are not the standard politician types, that when you look at I don't get that they're any worse, than most other Republicans. And,
well, Trump certainly was.
Arnold Schwarzenegger looks brilliant
Yeah,
compared to most of the Republican Party now.
Yeah, I agree. Trump certainly, though. I mean, my God, this clown was elected president when a totally competent person was also put forward, whether you liked her or not. I mean, my concern is not so much with the parties as it is with the people. I now look at my fellow citizens. I scan their faces and think, are you responsible for this? Did you do this? I mean, I do. I look at them now with like, I want to, because they are starting to do something that I never thought I'd live to see. They're killing my country. They're killing what I loved about my country. And I just want to note that this speech yesterday he gave and pulling out of the Paris Accord with this lunacy that somehow it was some kind of a what is it? It's an international plot to take down the United States. This kind of insanity, this kind of nutso stuff, when it's a very voluntary agreement, anybody who knows anything about it.
Right.
But this speech clearly shows that Steve Bannon is back. Big time.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody thought he was gone. Everybody thought, overplayed his hand. We never saw him again, never heard from him. He bided his time.
Right.
He's back. Trump turned away everybody else.
Corey Lewandowski might be coming back too.
Yes, right. So when you got a cornered animal like Trump, who doesn't trust anybody to start with, he's going to pull in tighter and tighter to the people that he does, if he trusts anybody, trust. And that is as horrific a crowd as one can imagine. I want to ask you about Comey's testimony coming up next week.
Yes.
Can't this all really start to unravel? I mean, you see the little with Mueller doing his investigation and pulling a little thread here and pulling another little thread there. Do you mean to tell me that in the next year and a half there are not going to be the kinds of allegations and suspicions that make this White House it makes Watergate look like a Tea Party? I didn't mean to say Tea Party.
I think that's exactly how it's going to go.
Well,
and that's when we're really going to see the hard right coalition that is behind Trump hold together in the face of it. And here again, 50-50 tells me that they can't. But there's some other factors here that make it, that gives some people might say 50-50 is being very optimistic for Trump. But there's some things about the 2018 election that I think that a lot of people are missing that I find even more disturbing than many of the things you've mentioned. And one of them being that what we can expect in 2018 and again in 2020 is an unprecedented degree of interference from Russian sources.
Right.
They will be. Putin is going to throw 10 times, 100 times more money at this than he did last time because he's been so successful, and he will target he will target Democrats everywhere. He has to take solace from the idea that he can influence Senate and House races to the point where it keeps Paul Ryan in there,
right.
And that would it's like people who are running for the Democrats, they need to be much more prepared for that than the Clinton people were.
Well, how can some poor little congressional candidate trying to unseat an incumbent Republican have the wherewithal, the finances, to take on Vladimir Putin too?
Well, I mean, that it's like they are against. It's what's going to be required.
Huh.
It's what's going to be required, and that Hillary Clinton could have certainly helped her campaign immeasurably if simply having a much more secure emailing system and data storage system than they'd have.
But we found out,
that would have saved them an enormous amount of grief.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think. I think this internet, obviously, there's always a way to hack into anything now. Nothing is secure. So,
sure.
and
but the other side to it, of course, is the fake news that will be awash. And I hold out the possibility, maybe not in 2018, but maybe it's hard to say. Is that the American electorate will begin to have a much more discerning sense about this, particularly as revelations come out, as you said. That's where the importance of what happens with this investigation becomes more and more central, is what is revealed about this hacking and the fake news that came out of Russia, such that it can inform voters in 2018 and 2020 about it. That is, I think, one of the key things. It's also one of the things when I look at the way Congress is handling these various investigations. One of the things that the Republicans have just been very effective at stalling is any inquiry into how the hacking occurred and how to stop it in the future. You hear both parties' people mentioning this, and yet nothing. There's absolutely nothing happening around that. However,
there's so many fires to put out. You don't know where to head first. I mean, I think that's people are simply overwhelmed. I mean, and that's what they say. Trump loves that, creating absolute chaos, and Putin loves it. And between the two of them, they're doing a hell of a job. I just got.
They are indeed.
Yeah, I want to share just two emails that came in. Louise writes, I disagree with you guys. I believe Bernie could have and would have won. Too many people literally hated Hillary. Bernie was viable. I believe this deeply. Okay. And again, nobody can prove it one way or the other, right?
Sure.
And Nikolai writes, Lynn, as someone who lives in der Trumpenführerland, I can tell you for certain these people out here want a badass. That's how they perceive the orange one. Why? I don't know, but the Democrats need an effing badass. I'll take the Rock. Yeah, but whatever. What do you think?
Yeah, I empathize with Nikolai's point of view, and I think that there's I think that the Democrats need to be open to a much wider spectrum of potentials than they have in recent decades. As I said, the Democratic Party has been one that has become so funnel-like in the way that it channels leaders to the top position, that it has tended to filter out a lot of people, whereas in the Republican Party, they'll take almost anybody over there.
See, it used to be the exact opposite. It used to be the exact opposite. The Republicans had this, stood in line and waited their turn, and then they had a very organized, established way of doing things, and now, we flipped out too.
The Democrats have become much more the institutionalists.
Right.
The Democrats have been much more in foreign policy. The party of the global status quo. it is really quite remarkable. And I think the most important piece is that somewhere along the way we completely lost touch with the working class.
Absolutely. And that was the bedrock of the Democratic Party. Unbelievable. But I think part of it is in fact, the identity politics that the Democrats got themselves into, so that there are always these little mini tribes within the tribe, and all have to have their due, and that's the kind of thing that really. And there was a tribe for everybody, but white working class people. So when they felt they were not being addressed by the Democratic Party, they are correct.
Yep. And one of the additional elements to it is beginning in the 1970s, and I go back to the Clintons. The Democratic Leadership Council that emerged to try and chart a middle road,
right?
And the Clintons' road to power on that idea was that the Democrats ended up taking a walk on the key protections for organized labor, and this is one of those.
Which was
in the 1970s. Excuse me.
What's the key protection of organized labor?
Just standing up for.
You're saying in general.
Workers and having those protections in place such that it's easy to organize, it's easy to unionize. And beginning in the 1970s, with Jimmy Carter and every subsequent Democrat since has put the sort of middle of the road, soft on organized labor people in power, such that it is almost impossible to organize now.
It obviously, and the unions were such an organizing principle for the Democrats, and now, all those those were the Reagan Democrats. They're the Trump Democrats, and I don't know how you hold them when I think a lot of that is racial. Has nothing to do with labor.
I think that if you inflict enough economic damage on them, I suspect, and here again, there's always going to be that hardcore they're not going anywhere. But in terms of that, I still believe that there's a sizable number that are persuadable that they really are better off voting for the Democrats, given those two choices.
God. Well. Short of brain transplants for millions of Americans, I don't know. I mean, so you're trying to be optimistic, but as a historian,
I am optimistic.
Stop and think about this. You, the historian, stop and think of how America in history has been presented. We've, God knows, have done horrible things, and we've done wondrous things, and we've been an exemplar and we've been, horrifying. We've done all these things, but we still sort of hewed to these fundamental principles and tried, as Dr. King said, to move the arc of history toward justice. But that's not happening now, and I don't know. I think that we are seeing the inevitable decline of this great experiment, and I really think this is the beginning of the end. I do, and I think in some ways, you can think of the fact that history will show this man. Think of Trump, this crazy, despicable narcissist who now bestrides the globe.
Mm-hmm.
The face of America, a bully, an idiot, a total incompetent, and
a tool.
He'll get his dream, because centuries and centuries after he's dead, if there are any of us left to write the histories, he will be one of the biggest names in world history, I think.
Maybe.
And we brought him.
Or it's like Richard Nixon.
Well, Germans will live with the shame of Adolf Hitler. I think we will live with the shame of Donald Trump. But I really think we're I always said this, the threat to America and the threat to American democracy is not beyond our borders. It is right inside the nation, and here we got it going. I really think it's the beginning of the end.
I remain of the view that Americans are perfectly capable of creating or altering that trajectory. God, and it starts next year.
Well, it starts today.
Oh, sure, but in terms of when the rubber really meets the road in November of 2018,
mm-hmm.
if we can't take the House, if the Democrats can't take the House, then I'm totally with you.
Well, I don't know that they can, and I also want to add to the hacking with the Republicans that I know Pennsylvania's voting system is totally hackable. I mean, they didn't do that this time, as far as we know. They didn't hack the actual vote. You think they can't? Yeah. Yes, they can. And the state governments don't care because they know what direction they're hacking in at this point. The Republicans are quite willing to take an assist from the Russians. Oh God, Jared, I hope your more optimistic take and your greater faith in we the people is in fact what awaits us. I hope. We're out of time, buddy. Boy, it was sure nice hearing from you again. So, will you come back on what, the 16th? Did we say?
2 weeks. Yes.
In 2 weeks, that'd be great.
There'll be a lot to talk about more, I'm sure. In 2
well,
weeks,
you know what?
That we've talked, we'll have a completely different issue.
Well, I know. Actually, you know what? If we were to redo the show at 3 p.m. today, it would be a totally different. That's how much things are changing that fast these days. The head
that's something
spins.
to take some solace from.
Okay.
Take solace. Yep.
Okay. Well, great having you. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Yep, you too, Lynn.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Jared, bye. And thank you guys for listening. I'm sorry. I was trying to make everybody miserable, but I can't help it. I'm just here saying what I think. Anyway, you have a good weekend too, and may I say, go.